also let you duck behind cover whenever you pressed it. Anytime we went to arcades, those were the machines we would hit up first. Area 51 was another classic, albeit a little bit more rudimentary and old school. Your goal was to blast aliens while avoiding the civilians. That was a common obstacle in these games where innocent people would just pop up on the screen and go, oh no! And if you shot them, you'd take damage or be penalized. Now, as the first-person shooter genre got bigger, the demand for these kind of on-rails action games kind of declined. We still got some fun stuff like those 2 Resident Evil shooters on the Wii and the surprisingly good Dead Space Extraction, but these games are mostly gone these days. Most aren't literally dead. If you're really looking, there are some pretty great music games out there, especially coming out of Japan, but compared to the explosive popularity they enjoyed in the 2000s, a lot of these games might as well not exist. And like, the popularity basically came from 2 games, Guitar Hero and of course Rock. Rock Band. It cannot be understated just how big these games were for a while. They were absolutely massive. Both Activision with Guitar Hero and later EA with Rock Band, they knew they had a golden goose on their hands, so they proceeded to milk them for all that they were worth. I guess with this, people just got burned out. The amount of Guitar Hero sequels and spin-offs was like ridiculous. The fact that the games were basically unchanged from Guitar Hero 1 was kind of an issue too. Like, they did little change-ups, but I guess not enough. There's only so many ways someone can play the same game over and over before the experience gets stale, and I guess that's what happens. It seems like most of the mainstream folks just got tired of it and moved on. Music games are still around today, of course, like we said. Rhythm games are still a thing. The Just Dance games are inexplicably still releasing and are constantly making the top 10 in sales for any given year. And of course, the recent Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy game is a top-notch collection of songs from that series. So there's still interest in music games in general, but you know, as a genre, especially with plastic peripherals, it is nowhere near what it once was. Next, over at number 5, let's talk vehicular combat games, because now we're really getting into the real dead stuff. Even the most obscure genre of game gets a few indies out on Steam these days, but not so much with vehicular combat games. There's not a lot. There's Road Redemption, which came out a few years back, and that's really it for right now. Now, during the PS1-ish era, these games were huge. Twisted Metal was the big one, but Vigilante 8 was another really underrated one. And then there were like all these copycat games. Star Wars had one, there was a wrestling one, The Simpsons had one, and they all had one thing in common. A lot of them really sucked. Really, it was Twisted Metal and Vigilante 8, and those were the GOATs. Really, as much of us weirdos really worshipped Vigilante 8, it was Twisted Metal as the big mainstream one, and nothing really else. So when that series ended, so did the entire car combat genre. There are plenty of games that are kind of sort of related to this genre, but for the most part, it's pretty dead and buried. Maybe if Sony ever revives Twisted Metal again, it'll happen, but at least right now, it seems unlikely. There's still that TV show that's meant to come out this year for Twisted Metal. So seriously, that's still happening. And then there was also that PlayStation 5 vehicular combat game that didn't last very long, but you know, that's really it. And you know what? It's a damn shame because vehicular combat